The Galaxy S26 Ultra just became the fastest smartphone Samsung has ever released, but that headline hides a much bigger shift happening underneath. Some of the most important changes aren't flashy, weren't highlighted on stage, and barely show up in spec sheets. And once you connect them, they start to explain where Samsung is really taking the Ultra line next. If you like videos that go beyond surface-level leaks and actually break down what these changes mean long-term, make sure to like the video, share it with other tech fans, and subscribe. Most channels stop at specs. Here we focus on the decisions behind them. Let's start with performance because, yes, the S26 Ultra is officially the fastest phone right now, but the reason matters more than the numbers. Samsung is once again using a custom for Galaxy version of the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, and it's not just branding. Both the CPU and GPU are clocked higher than the standard version used by other Android flagships. That's why the S26 Ultra is outperforming phones like the OnePlus 15, even though they technically share the same chip. This tells us Samsung isn't chasing benchmarks for marketing alone. They're building headroom, extra performance, specifically for future on-device AI features that haven't fully arrived yet. The quiet risk here is efficiency. Higher clocks mean tighter thermal limits, and how well Samsung manages heat will decide whether this power feels premium or unnecessary 6 months from now. Now let's talk about the camera, because this is where Samsung made one of its most understated but important changes. There's no massive new sensor overhaul, but the camera algorithm has been reworked to produce more natural skin tones. That might sound minor, but it's a big philosophical shift. Samsung cameras have traditionally favored punchy contrast and saturation. Moving toward realism, especially for darker skin tones, puts them closer to Google's Pixel approach. The trade-off is that photos may look less dramatic at first glance, but more accurate overall. This isn't about impressing you instantly. It's about consistency and trust over time. Another subtle change is the new optional 24MP shooting mode. It delivers noticeably better detail and color than the default 12MP mode, but takes a few seconds to finish processing. This isn't shutter lag. Photos capture instantly, but Samsung is clearly asking users to accept a small wait in exchange for better results. That's a signal. Samsung believes users are ready to prioritize quality over speed, at least when they choose to. What's more interesting is that this feature is exclusive to the S26 series, even though older hardware could likely support it. That hints at Samsung becoming more aggressive with software-based exclusivity going forward. The physical design reinforces that idea. The camera bump on the S26 Ultra is significantly thicker than before, and Samsung is using a dual-layer camera module to keep it visually cleaner. But it doesn't solve the wobble issue, which tells us something important. Samsung is prioritizing internal camera complexity over everyday ergonomics. They're designing around future imaging potential, not desk stability. Whether that's a smart long-term move or a usability compromise depends on how much these cameras evolve over the next generation. Finally, there's the AI landscape shift happening quietly in the background. Apple partnering with Google for AI models fundamentally changes the race. Samsung no longer gets a free advantage just by being ahead on AI features. Instead, raw on-device performance becomes the differentiator. And that brings us right back to why Samsung pushed this custom chip so hard. The S26 Ultra isn't just competing with Apple phones anymore. It's competing with Apple plus Google's intelligence. When you step back, the Galaxy S26 Ultra starts to feel less like a yearly upgrade and more like a setup device, built to handle changes that haven't fully arrived yet. And that raises an interesting question about what the next Ultra will even need to improve on, and whether we're approaching a point where software, not hardware, becomes the real battleground. Let me know what you think. Is Samsung making the right bets here, or are these quiet changes setting up new problems we're not talking about enough?